Hello, test on. Madam Anita, can you hear me? I'm agree.
Oh, hello. Agree?
Yeah, madam.
Oh, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, me too. You can hear my voice clearly or?
Sure, very clear.
Okay. How about Miss Hui? Everything good in there?
My name is. Can you hear
Oh
me,
yeah,
please?
okay. My video also I will view. Okay.
Mm.
Okay, nice
Uh,
to meet you all and already 10 past 2. I
mm-hmm,
think we will start the event, but before we start, I will info to you and all participants.
mm-hmm.
The link event, the enrollment link, we get 130 participant registered from the link registered.
Mm,
So we
okay.
have actually now 130 in enrollment link. And then now for video conference, we just have 8 attendance, yeah,
Yeah.
for your video conference. Is okay, ma'am?
I think it's okay. We already have
Yeah,
much online, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so we will continue to your session, okay?
Okay, I think me, you can start me.
Yep.
Yeah, time is yours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to our webinar program. My name is May, and I'm the IT at SEAMEO RETRAC Vietnam. SEAMEO RETRAC is one of the SEAMEO center in the region. SEAMEO RETRAC holds a webinar since 2018 in collaboration with its sister center, SEAMEO Simulink. We are now in our webinar series 2021, and this is our third lecture in our webinar series 2021. And our topic for today is the role of the teacher in post-pandemic education. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Our webinar is a video recorded. Please watch and listen to the video. The video takes less than 30 minutes. For your comments and questions while the video is played or after watching the video, please type them in the control panel. I will bring them up to our lecture. The video is followed with the question and answer portion. And after the webinar, we have the assignment link for you. And the participant will receive the webinar certificate free of charge by completing the assignment 1 week after the webinar session. The guideline of the assignment is put in the end of this webinar. And now without further ado, I will introduce to you our lecturer. Our lecturer is Dr. Anita C. Oblina. Dr. Oblina obtained a doctorate degree in educational planning and management in the Philippines. She was assistant to the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Xavier University, Philippines in 2014. The Dean of Faculty, and Academic Affairs at Pinma Cayenne, the Oral College in 2015 to 2017, Philippines. And she holds the post as Senior Education Specialist at SEAMEO RETRAC for a number of years now. She has been working as curriculum developer, instructional material design, trainer, researcher, and lecturer. She is very passionate to advance the leadership and management skill of the teacher, school leader, administrator, and school official in South Asia region required in the rapid and dynamic change of the learning environment in Asia and beyond. May I now give the floor to Dr. Oblina. Dr. Oblina, please unmute your microphone, please.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Miss Me. And good morning to our participants. We missed conducting our webinar in July and August, but here we are today, and I'm very happy to welcome all of you. This is topic 3, as already mentioned in our webinar series 2021. And the title of the topic again is The Role of the Teacher in Post-Pandemic Education. Again, this is a recorded video, and I invite you to watch and listen to the video. And you can ask questions later after the video is played. So let us now play the video.
Mr. Akli, can you please share the video?
Yeah, wait a moment. Okay.
Hi everyone. Welcome to our third session of Webinar Series 2021. Our topic today is the role of teachers in post-pandemic education. Again, my presentation includes three key points as follows. What is the blueprint of post-pandemic education? What is the role of teachers in post-pandemic education? And what might be the challenges in post-pandemic education, and how to deal with the challenge. Let's get started. What is the blueprint of post-pandemic education? I would like to share with you 7 blueprints of post-pandemic education as follows. 1. Personalized everything. 2. All active learning should be task-driven. 3. Passive learning should not be rigidly structured. 4. Teachers become facilitators of learning. 5. Classrooms need to be adaptive environments. 6. The goal of education is not a grade. And 7. No subject is beyond anyone. Allow me to narrate the details of these blueprints. 1. Personalize everything. No more arbitrarily lumping together classrooms full of students into the same curriculum, forcing them to learn the same thing
at the same pace. Customize learning to fit each individual's needs and should do everything we can to take advantage of that. There already exist multiple online learning platforms that teach a variety of subjects better than most teachers can. 2. All active learning should be task-driven. No more lessons where you jot down notes off a board. Rather, students are assigned tasks to complete and given all the tools they might need to figure out how to solve the problem, like 3D printers, virtual learning environments, interactive displays, and connection to laboratories and research facilities all around the world, and others. 3. Passive learning should not be rigidly structured. Students should be given a topic to learn about and a variety of educational materials to pick from to help them learn. It should be up to them which they want to use, like podcasts, videos, books, virtual tours, and others. 4. Teachers become facilitators of learning. Rather than lecturing, teachers go from student to student, helping them figure out how to learn what they need to know. Teachers need a deep understanding of the topic they are teaching, and they should know how to learn about it. When available, students should also be supplied with their own virtual learning assistant to answer any question they might need to help them stay on task. 5. Classrooms need to be adaptive environments. No more square boxes with rows of desks. Classrooms should be spaces that promote curiosity while fostering creative social interaction with peers. 6. The goal of education is not a grade. The goal should be more to make students literate in all core domains of knowledge and fluent in their selected field. But crucially, they need to understand that the world is not divided into discrete subjects called math, English, or history, and that none can be understood in isolation. And 7, no subject is beyond anyone. Lies are repeated that some people just can't do math or can't write well. What should be taught is that a certain level of literacy in any subject is attainable by everybody and necessary to be able to fully appreciate our world. There are as well some changes in education in post-pandemic. Here are 10 post-pandemic changes. 1. Big class of 2040. 2. More remote work. 3. More personalized competency-based learning. 4. More community-connected project-based learning. 5. A new frame of meaningful measures. 6. Fewer expensive schools and colleges. 7. More home-based and hybrid learning. 8. Continuity of learning. 9. Better safety net. And 10. New mutuality. 1. Big class of 2040. There will be a spike in birth rates early in 2021, resulting in a couple big cohorts moving through school. 2. More remote work. After adapting to remote work, many companies will continue to support more work from home. A growing number of companies will reduce their leased space or go completely virtual. Prices of expensive urban commercial real estate will quickly soften and developers will hit the brakes on new construction. 3. More personalized competency-based learning. Districts have begun to issue guidance to high schools, and it basically says, figure it out, find learning options for kids, make judgments about competency, and weigh what you can. Post-pandemic, a lot more high schools will have more flexible, show what you know options. And that goes for teachers too. There will be less of the sit and get professional development and more flexible, personalized professional learning for teachers. 4. More community connected project based learning. With state testing cancelled and a lot more flexible time, many learners are engaging in interest-based learning and impromptu projects. School closures have been a reminder that learning can happen anywhere. When kids return to school, some schools will respond with more project-based learning connected to local problems and opportunities. 5. A new frame of meaningful measures. We can officially call this the official end of the 30-year era of standards-based reform and the associated preoccupation with grade-level reading and math proficiency as the only measure of progress for learners and quality for schools. Pre-pandemic, there was growing consensus about the importance of success skills, that is, self and social awareness, collaboration, resilience, growth mindset. There will be a resumption of district tests at some point, but it will be in the context of broader goals and new forms of evidence. Schools will help learners build a comprehensive profile and assemble an extended transcript that reflects their personal learning journey. 6. Fewer expensive schools and colleges. Dozens of private colleges and schools will never reopen after learners and parents scrambled to find less expensive, flexible alternatives. 7. More home-based and hybrid learning. After parents figure out learning at home, 500,000 students won't go back to school, and a bunch of school districts will get more aggressive about supporting homeschoolers with hybrid learning centers. Hundreds of parents will turn their homeschool into a micro school. 8. Continuity of learning. By the 2020-2021 school year, the learning institutions will have a continuity of learning path with a blended curriculum, learning platform, personal or take-home devices, and support for ubiquitous Wi-Fi. In post-pandemic, more people will think of education as a public service more than a place. 9. Better safety net. Millions of people suddenly out of work is forcing Congress and state legislatures to quickly improve social safety nets. This will not only address short-term challenges, but improve long-term ability to weather dislocation. We're in for a long, bumpy ride. And 10. New mutuality. Perhaps the most foundational change will be a recognition of our new mutuality. We are all in this together. We think that we will translate into difference making. More schools focusing on helping young people find and begin making their unique contribution. We are experiencing a terrible shock, one that will get worse before it gets better, but some good will come from it if we work together. With this in mind, let us proceed to the second key point. What is the role of teachers in post-pandemic education? Coronavirus-related disruption can give educators time to rethink the sector. Technology has stepped into the breach and will continue to play a key role in educating future generations. In a world where knowledge is a mouse click away, the role of the teacher must change too. Not since World War II have so many countries around the world seen schools and educational institutions go into lockdown at around the same time and for the same reason. While we know that the impact of this virus will be far-reaching, what might it mean in no longer term for education? For a while now, educators around the world have been talking about the need to rethink how we educate future generations. This might just be the disruption that the sector needed to get us all to rethink how we educate and question what we need to teach and what we are preparing our students for. So, as we educators grapple with the new ways of communicating with our students away from our classrooms and lecture theaters, it is a good time to reflect on how this disruptive crisis can help us define what learning should look like for generations Z, Alpha, and beyond. The majority of students in our educational institutions today are from Generation Z, a generation that has grown up in a truly globalized world. This generation, the oldest of whom are now 25 years old, is likely to be reflecting on their education as a result of a truly global pandemic, with many facing canceled exams, sporting events, and even graduation. This generation is defined by technology, where the terms FOBA, fear of being alone, and FOMO, fear of missing out, express their expectations of instant communication and feedback effected through apps like Instant Messenger, Snapchat, and WhatsApp. That include from parents and educators, something being amplified with the current remote learning. This is also a generation that sees the power of working collaboratively to solve the world's biggest challenges, climate change and mental health being top of their agenda, and at present their collective responsibility to self-isolate to protect older members of the community. The COVID-19 crisis may well change our world and our global outlook. It may also teach us how education needs to change to be able to better prepare our young learners for what the future might hold. Here are 5 roles teachers will do. 1. Educating citizens in an interconnected world. COVID-19 is a pandemic that illustrates how globally interconnected we are. There is no longer such a thing as isolated issues and actions. Successful people in the coming decades need to be able to understand this interrelatedness and navigate across boundaries to leverage their differences and work in a globally collaborative way. 2. Redefining the role of the teacher. The notion of a teacher as the knowledge holder who imparts wisdom to their pupils is no longer fit for the purpose of the 21st century education. With students being able to gain access to knowledge and even learn a technical skill through a few clicks on their phones, tablets, and computers, we will need to redefine the role of the teacher in the classroom and lecture theater. The notion of teachers as the owners of knowledge, delivering it to their students, no longer fits the expectations of the next generation. This may mean that the role of teachers will need to move towards facilitating young people's development as contributing members of society. Since students can gain access to knowledge and even learn a technical skill by a few clicks on their devices, we will need to rethink the role of the teacher in the classroom. This means that the role of teachers should evolve. Teachers act as facilitators, using their experience and knowledge to identify which micro-learning pieces must be engaged to develop a certain skill. 3. Teaching life skills needed for the future. In this ever-changing global environment, young people require resilience and adaptability, skills that are proving to be essential to navigate effectively through this pandemic. Looking into the future, some of the most important skills that employers will be looking for will be creativity, communication, and collaboration, alongside empathy and emotional intelligence, and being able to work across demographic lines of differences to harness the power of collective through effective teamwork. 4. Unlocking technology to deliver education. The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in educational institutions across the world being compelled to suddenly harness and utilize the suite of available technological tools to create content for remote learning for students in all sectors. Educators across the world are experiencing new possibilities to do things differently and with greater flexibility, resulting in potential benefits in accessibility to education for students across the world. There are new modes of instruction that have previously been largely untapped, particularly in the kindergarten to grade 12 arena. Although this pivot towards remote learning was necessary, it has also forced the teaching profession to innovate and break away from traditional practices. This has led to a bevy of online and interactive academic activities, greater familiarity with new technologies, and other creative methods of working remotely. Most importantly, it is our hope that for Generation Z, Alpha, and generations to come, these experiences of isolation and remote learning away from their peers, teachers, and classrooms will serve as a cautious reminder of the importance of our human need for face-to-face social interaction. And 5, involvement of parents. The aforementioned changes have not only increased, they have improved the participation of parents and their children's education. Parents' universities or virtual home education training for parents has become commonplace in the new normal. This has greatly strengthened the connection between local schools and their communities, connections that will continue to persist and develop alongside the continuing evolution of post-pandemic education. Such a change presents both new challenges as well as benefits for teachers and students alike. While community outreach entails more work for educators, administrators, and parents, it can also bridge the gaps between schools and students' learning environments at home. This moves us to the last key point: what might be the challenges in post-pandemic education and how to deal with the challenge. There is no denying that the pandemic has had a massive impact on the education sector. Over a year, students have spent more time at home than at school or university. It would be naive to expect everything to return back to normal. So, what will happen after lockdown? And what sort of challenges will educators face in post-pandemic? Here are some challenges that educators might face in post-pandemic and how to deal with the challenge. 1. Distance learning. Distance learning has been propelled into the spotlight due to COVID-19. While distance learning offers a number of benefits, there are some evident drawbacks too. It can be very didactic and solitary when students are purely clicking through presentations or reading documents online. How to deal with the challenge. Just because we have gotten used to learning in this way due to school closures, it does not mean that we should fall back on this as a teaching norm. Those who fall behind can end up falling further behind when there is a heavy emphasis on distance learning. What happens after lockdown depends partly on whether the vaccination does put an end to lockdowns forever. School leaders and teachers must re-examine the distance learning and find ways to address its drawbacks. 2. Educational technology. The EdTech or educational technology is another challenge we are likely to see in the education sector as a knock-on impact of the pandemic. We know that some students using technology during the pandemic will have had a negative experience because they are not used to it. How to deal with the challenge? We need to use these poor experiences as a critical learning tool in terms of technology and education training so that we can adapt EdTech successfully. And 3, unsupported educators. We are sure that this is something that a lot of educators can relate to at the moment. After all, a lot of teachers had no notice or very little notice about school closures and shifting to an online learning experience. This in itself was a challenge for everyone, especially as teachers pride themselves on being organized. How to deal with the challenge? It is important to recognize that educators are going to need support as we move out of the pandemic and transition to what will happen after lockdown. While trying to deal with the realities of the pandemic themselves, educators need to make sure learning continues while also helping students who are struggling with the pandemic and the impact of the COVID-19. It is a lot to take in to support. So support is a must. That ends my presentation and my final thoughts. In this new world, the teacher plays a very different role. Today's students are the first generation to have grown up with the internet and the first to be educated by it. For both students and teachers, this new learning journey is uncharted territory. So how can the teacher lead? Educationalists Era McWilliam has characterized a shift from the teacher as the sage of the stage to the guide on the side to the meddler in the middle. The meddler in the middle learns alongside students, challenging them to expand their horizons. Likewise, teachers can lead in this new learning journey as role models, catalysts for change, good listeners, creators of joyful and conducive atmosphere, subtle facilitators, and effective delegators. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. We have just finished watching the video, and I hope that the video is clear from your end. So at this point in time, we're going to move to our question and answer portion. May I turn over the mic to Miss Me?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Anita. And we will go ahead to take some time for question now. So if you have any question, please type in the chat box or Q&A. I will bring it up to Dr. Anita.
Oh, by the way, participants are also invited to use their microphone if they would like to say so uh, in person. So you can just use your mic, and I'm here to listen to you.
We have a question.
Yeah.
What are your biggest concern about transformation from online teaching to offline teaching?
Okay, a very good question, interesting question. And this is from Radin Nor Chawabit Fahim Yasin. Okay, now if you ask me this question, and you're asking me this now, for me, the biggest concerns and the biggest maybe challenge or challenges of again transforming from online to offline teaching, like now we are doing our remote teaching, and now then we will go back to our face-to-face classroom teaching. There will be a big, like adjustment. There will be some issues and concerns along with that transformation, especially because students are already, many things happened during the pandemic, and the learning has already experienced, like some countries in Southeast Asia, learning through online is really a challenge. There are cases like remote areas, for example, are telling that remote teaching or online teaching is not effective. They are saying it's ineffective. Why? Because of so many barriers, so many challenges. One challenge is the connectivity, and then another one is no gadgets for online teaching, and many more. So there will be really an adjustment, and this will be a big challenge on the part of the teachers and the students to be able to, I would say, readjust. Again, readjustment of the curriculum, trying to fit in, you know, the students' needs and the challenges the students are meeting during the pandemic. And aside from that, another challenge will be some students may have a traumatic experience during pandemic, being, learning from home. There is a social isolation. So a lot of things to be done. Of course, one is the curriculum. Again, adjustment of the curriculum. And going back then to the pedagogy, the teaching, way of trying to give a maximum learning outcomes to students who have been lost during the pandemic. I hope I have shared with you my ideas. Thank you for that question, Radin.
I just send the question. What impact have technology generate in this change in growth?
Okay, it's a very interesting question. What impact have technologies generated in this changing role? Technology has been really established during remote teaching. I would say schools have already programmed their learning, their teaching using technology. And with that in mind, I would say that the role of technology, maybe during the post-pandemic education, I would say, is really very, very important. And I believe that technology will be used forever. Even when we already have in a face-to-face setting, technology cannot be, I would say, cannot be ignored. technology is really very useful to be able to engage students in the learning process. And schools could not just like ignore the expenses that they already have vested on technology. And it is also proven that technology did many things in the learning process. So I would say that technologies would really prosper even during the face-to-face classes. Because through technology, teachers can maximize the learning process of the students. And students now are already, I would say, prepared. They already have the skills of using technology. So we use that to the maximum. Technology is always working hand in hand in the education process. I guess in different levels of education. Because at this point in time, we use technology even from the kinder through the highest level of education. Mhm. Okay. Thank you for that question. So I guess we don't have question anymore. Do we still have?
It's like we don't have any more question at the moment. So, Dr. Anita, is there
Can
anything
we
else?
ask?
Yes?
Yeah. I can I like can I ask question? I would like to ask question to our participants. No, there were questions asked like what the first question that was asked is about the challenges during the transformation, from online teaching to face-to-face or offline teaching, which what we are really talking about here, because we are talking about the role of teachers in post-pandemic education. So during the presentation, I have presented, the different roles of teachers during post-pandemic education, as well as the challenges. Uh, with that, then, uh, can we ask? I would like to ask the participants now from your end, because you are really in the, I would say, in the ground, you are teaching, and you experience what is it now in the remote teaching and what is it in the face-to-face teaching or in the offline teaching. Um, what do you think is your role, as a teacher in the transformation from the online to offline teaching, if that happens in the future? This is now a conversation. This is like you share your ideas, you share your thoughts, and you share your experiences. I guess no one is raising. No one is raising his hand. None so far. If you would like to, none so far, me, right? Yeah. Maybe I'd just like to share a few thoughts about it. As said in my presentation, one of the roles of the teacher during the post-pandemic education is really to be a facilitator, like facilitating the students' understanding, facilitating students to be able to analyze, to interpret, and to become a contributor, in the society. Um, by facilitating, it would suggest that try to listen to our students where they are, reach out the students and help the students understand. Especially that we know well what happened in the pandemic education. There are much that is lacking for them to understand and to digest and to be able to meet the standards of the school, because each school has its own standard of education. And so by then we will become friends with them. We will try to let them understand the way we would like them and develop them as a person. That is what we mean here by facilitator. So we are not acting as teacher, like dispenser of knowledge, that I know what I'm doing, I am knowledgeable, I know well the subject matter. There is no argument about it. But the point is how much we can impart education to our students in a manner that they will understand. And we are no longer the sage of the stage, but we are the meddler in the middle. We walk alongside students. As students try to discover and learn in process, we are there to facilitate, to help them understand more and understand better. This is now the role of the teacher, is really to come and to reach out where our students are in the post-pandemic education, because there are lots that we missed out. But I guess, alongside with that, we are still using technology. I believe technology cannot be ignored in the education process. But it's more like really helping students to become effective citizens who can share their knowledge and ideas in the community, who can stand out and who can speak out themselves. I would say it's quite a challenge on the part of the teachers as well as on the part of the students. But this is it. We are now experiencing the pandemic education. And for advanced students, well, pandemic education is a success. But for students who are there in the remote areas, pandemic education is a challenge. So we do a lot of things to do that in the post-pandemic education. And I would also say that in the post-pandemic education, a teacher becomes a globalized teacher. By globalized teacher, the teacher is updated because, education is connection. I mean, there is a connectivity in education. It's no longer like this is a local education. No, what we are going to do is we globalize the local, and we localize the global in, imparting instruction, imparting education on our students so that we can impact change. After all, what is education all about? I would say education is about change. We are changing our students to become better people. better students who can serve who can serve the community, the society, and the country as a whole. So that's just my thought, sharing with you about the role of teachers in the post-pandemic education. I know there are lots, but that's just one thing that comes to mind to tell you more about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Anita. And it looks like we've covered on of our question, and no one have any question for us.
So there are no more questions.
They have no more questions.
So maybe we can.
Yes, we got one more question.
Yeah.
Yep. In the QA box, can you explain more how can we as a teacher to personalize our student need in learning our subject?
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. It is about personalized teaching. By personalized teaching, I would say that we are going to adjust our we're going to adjust our way of teaching to students. We may still have the same curriculum. We are teaching same subject because we are following the curriculum. But the way we approach, the way we teach the subject would respond to the needs of our students. If the subject, for example, if the topic that we are presenting to our students is quite difficult to understand by this group of students, we are going to adjust that. The language that we use, we make it quite simple for them to understand without losing the content of the subject that we are teaching, without losing the concept. But we try to make it understandable to our students. That's personalized teaching. And it's really like, it's one-on-one. So you know your students well. I cannot personalize my teaching if I don't know my students. So I should know the background of my students, the level of competency, their learning styles. Even if I am teaching the equation, which the same topic to all, for example, grade 5 level, same lesson. But when I am going to conduct that, when I am going to present that topic, I have to see to it that my way of presentation would address or would respond to the needs of my students. Another way of personalized teaching is I will talk to my students. I have time to talk with them, maybe before the class or maybe after the class. Just an informal conversation. I go out from my teaching, like I'm not a teacher anymore when I'm outside. I can be your friend, you know. I am a facilitator, so we can talk. That's personalized. And notice then that if you're going to do that, the students become very active in the class because they know that their students know them. I mean, they know that their teacher know them. I have experienced that one when I was a teacher back in the university. I really took time speaking to my students outside my class. And when I am in front of them in the class, they will really listen and they are very cooperative because they know that there is this personal care and that's what they need. The personal care the trust that we have given to them. Trust that you can do it, you can make it. And that will develop their confidence. That is personalized teaching. Though the topic may be quite difficult, but they are willing to take time to understand because they like the teacher, because the teacher knows them and cares for them. And that is one blueprint of post-pandemic education, personalized teaching. I guess it has to do also what I had mentioned a while ago, that um, the pandemic, you know, during pandemic, there are those students who really experience like trauma. Something happened maybe in the family, relatives or friends, or to them, and that healing process is quite some time, and the pain maybe is lingering. And so personalized teaching helps a lot to students to stabilize and to come back to education with open mind and open heart. Okay, I hope I have shared my thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Anita. So I think we don't have any question. And we don't have any question.
Okay.
So what do you want to cover before I wrap up?
So since I think we have covered all, and at this point in time, we are going to uh, close our session. And I would like to thank you so much for your attendance and for your participation. And I hope that you have learned a lot, and I have shared with you something that perhaps you can use in your own context. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you all participants have attended our webinar today. So you can go to the Simulate website to get the assignment link. So after you complete assignment link, we will send you the certificate. And you are invited to our upcoming webinar with the topic a teacher leadership in the classroom, and the detail will be announced for our sister center, Simulate. And thank the participant and co-host Mr. Angie to help us today. Miss Angie, I think you unmute your microphone.
Okay, Miss Me, thank you so much for your moderator. Thank you so much for Dr. Anita for your presentation and your sharing thoughts. We really need about your experience about this, and then we will wait for the next webinar, yeah, for the next topic, yeah. And then for all participants, don't forget to fill the assignment in the enrollment link. Yeah, we already provide the assignment form in the enrollment link. Don't forget to fill out. And what about the deadline, for assignment?
they have a week to complete the assignment. Yeah.
Okay, so all the participants, please fill the assignment form at least 1 week, yeah, from this event. I think that's all for me. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for the
Thank you.
session. We will see you in the next webinar.
Yeah.
Thank you so
you.
much, Mr. Agri and Simuli.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all, my dear participants.